Right, let's turn our attention to this. A new report from a think tank, Equi, have found that children in care are being overlooked from a faith perspective. Titled Faith, Family and the Care System, A Misconnection, the think tank, which amplifies British Muslim insight, has found that with over 117,000 children currently in care, an overlooked factor in the conversation around child welfare is faith, which is being systematically ignored. Well, joining me now to talk more about the report from Equi is Sofiah Shah. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is worrying. What have you found?
Thank you so much for having me. And we found this to be an extremely important question because when we look at the faith system, we understand things like ethnicity and culture and heritage are really valued and are really kind of considered in the system when we're looking at matching or how do we provide identity affirming care. However, we found this aspect of faith never seems to really come into the question. Data isn't even collected on faith when children are asked about what's important to them or when social workers are interacting with them, faith doesn't come into the question. However, we understand that from our poll, about 75% of British Muslims, as well as 40% of the general population, believe faith was core to them growing up. So we truly believe that there's a huge aspect of life, daily life and communal practices and rituals that children aren't being appreciated as part of many children's lives when they enter the care system.
And are there their faith identities, as such as they may be, and obviously they're young and they're evolving, so we do need to take that on board. Mm-hmm. But are they recorded in any shape or form currently?
It's not a requirement, no. And if you are trying to look at publicly available data, you can find things on ethnicity and heritage, but you can't find anything on faith, and it's simply not a requirement for authorities to collect data on.
But is that because, as I say, faith is an evolving thing, so they may have come from a particular background, but actually they may, in the future, choose something else. So do you think that's part of the reason why they're not collating this documentation, so to speak?
I think faith has always been an uncomfortable conversation for many professionals in the care system, and speaking to many academics and social workers who work in training other social workers, we found that many of them say faith is an uncomfortable sphere. And perhaps that's because of many prejudices out there, many misconceptions. And we understand that faith is an evolving part of a child's life. We're not saying that any child may have full conviction or truly understand everything that is part of their heritage. However, we understand that growing up, there are certain for example, if you're a Christian, celebrating Christmas, Easter, perhaps Lent, if you're a Muslim, fasting during Ramadan, daily prayers, going to the mosque on Fridays, things like that are part of a child's daily rhythm and part of their fabric of life. And when we discuss faith in the care system, we use the term faith heritage to show that they've come from these practices and they're part of their life. And actually, that element of stability throughout their care placements might really increase their resilience. And yes, and many of these, yet we say children, there may be young adults as well as part of the system who really hold on to their faith. And for many of the care organizations we interviewed, for many children, faith might be the most important thing that they can connect with. So, for example, we spoke to one representative from Active Care Solutions up in the north, and they said they were working with this young teen who wasn't connecting with any of the professionals around him, was really reserved, really quiet. When he met Muhammad Bashir, someone who understood his faith and spoke to him about faith, he said, "Uncle, you remind me of my dad." So what we find is that we aren't trying to put a blanket term on any child and say, a child from this faith background needs this. No, it's about engaging with the child, understanding where faith comes into their life, and really trying to create that stability and resilience for them in the system just through their placements.
And I'm curious about, I'm not sure whether your report
into their life and really trying to create that stability and resilience for them in the system just through their placements.
And I'm curious about, I'm not sure whether your report covered this, for people who either want to adopt or foster, how important is the religion of the child that they may potentially bring into their own sphere to them?
Yeah, so what we found is that many parents from faith communities or ethnic communities, they may be startled or shocked when they find out children from their own community are in the system. And that might be part of their initial fostering motivation. However, faith is actually a motivator to help all vulnerable children. And we found that, we found that about, we found, 2/3 of British Muslims say it's their responsibility to help vulnerable children wherever possible, and are 63% more likely to consider fostering or adoption than the general public. So yes, for some Muslims, maybe or for some people of a particular faith heritage, they may be interested in kind of matching that because they understand where their strengths lie and they understand the specific care they can provide. However, after speaking to another fostering organisations called Foster Care Link in London, they said, yes, many of the people we work with, perhaps at first, they are interested in being matched with someone with a similar background to them. However, once they become more comfortable with the system, once they become more comfortable as a foster carer and know kind of how the system works, they become open to actually supporting vulnerable children in whatever shape or form they come in. So we find, yes, it may be a motivator, but it's not a barrier at all. It's something that can be worked with to actually expand that dedication to care.
What from these findings would you be recommending to the government or any organisation involved in the care system?
Yes, so the crux of our recommendations, which you can find in our report, are all about faith literacy. It's about co-producing with local communities to understand what are the faith needs of children. Create a working group with members of different faiths and care leavers and professionals to understand where does faith become important for children in the care system and how do we communicate this to professionals working with them. So it's all about collecting data on faith, offering faith literate training to social workers, and offering faith sensitive therapeutic care as well to children where that may be beneficial for them.
Thank you ever so much for joining us this morning. I was speaking there to Sofiah Shah from Equi, and they are a non-partisan UK think tank, talking there about the report, and their report is entitled Faith, Family and the Care System, a Misconnection ? For more on the work of Equi and to read the full report, you can go to their website, equi.org.uk.